Now, all whipping is a way to stop the cut ends of the rope. See how all the different strands can quite easily come undone. Now, the cheating whipping is just to put a knot in the end of it, so it can only come undone down to the knot. But there are several different methods of doing it that are a lot nicer. One of the methods, pop a bit of masking tape, electrical tape around the ends, quick and easy. Is to use a dip whipping like this. Horrible smelly stuff, but you know, it does work. Use this more if you want to try and waterproof the ends of it. So if you've got a waxed rope or a waterproof rope or a waterproofed rope and you want to waterproof the cut end, then this stuff is good for that because it will seal up everything at the end. It's got a kind of rubbery quality to it as well that will just keep stuff out of the way. This nylon rope, just like paracord, you can also melt the ends, but there are some nicer ways that will work with any kind of rope, with stranded rope. Now this stuff is called whipping twine. This is a man-made fibre whipping twine. You can get others, and really you can create a whipping with any piece of thin string or twine or whatever. So yeah, all I'm going to do is just do what's called a common whipping, and I might even show you. Well, we might show that now. So just get a bit of it off. You can cut this, or you can use a lighter to just melt it through. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to just lay a loop along the side of our rope like that. Okay, see that? So I've just got a bite of a loop that's just laying along, so I've got a little end hanging out there, and it's just on there. Right, we've got that. I've got to hold it in place. The tricky bit is starting this. Once you start it, it's easy, but it gets a bit fiddly at the start. So I'm just going to start going around, and like I said, there we go. Once it's started, we're fine. Okay, so it's just a case of being neat about this. You don't just pull it tight and easy. Keep going. Now I've started this a little bit too low, but for a whipping, what you really want to look at is to actually whip the end to a distance of about 3 times the thickness of the rope. So for this, the thickness of the rope is about that. So it should be sort of 1, 2, 3. So I should be whipping it down to about here instead of all the way down there. But you know, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so the general thing is doing it. It's not doing enough rather than doing too much. But got that little bit there at the top. Right. So once I'm at the end there, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my bit of thing there. Now you might recognise this particular tightening technique when we did the noose, but so the end of our whipping twine is going through that loop that we laid along the side of our bit of rope. It's going through all the way. Let's just keep it neat at the end. Alright, so that's through there, that's fine. Then I'm going to grab this piece and pull, and that tightens up that loop at the top. Right, and what I'm aiming to do, like the noose, what we did was to actually pull it so that it was like that a bit, you know. What we're going to try and do with this is to actually pull that loop inside the whipping. Right, so pull as hard as we can, and that, you can see that's disappeared inside. Probably get a little bit more, and that has then tightened it all up. That rope is not going to fray. So with this man-made kind of whipping twine, I mean, that's as much as you need to do if you're using you know, thin string or cotton or water, whatever. But with this man-made whipping twine, it gives you a little bit of extra kind of thing. So I can get a lighter and just burn the ends off and neaten that up. But what it also allows you to do, because it will shrink under flame, so I don't want to set fire to it, and I don't want to melt any of it or whatever. But what I can do is just hold the flame slightly underneath it and just give it a bit of a rub up and down. And what happens there is it just softens up the whipping slightly, and actually gets it to bind with itself a little bit, you know, so it's all stuck to itself and shrinks a bit more onto the rope. So that's that. That is common whipping. Like I said, probably only needed to go down to there for this particular piece of rope. But you know, that's pretty much what you do. Okay, West Country whipping. Its purpose is exactly the same as any other whipping, which is basically to stop your end of your rope fraying. Just another bit of whipping twine. But this is a little bit different. It just doesn't wrap around and so on. What we do with this is we actually just tie a load of knots. So find the middle of your rope, of your whipping twine, sorry. Then you put that, stop going around. Okay, so we put that on the rope. And then, hope you can see what I'm doing, I'm just going to tie a thumb knot. Right? Oops, the wrong way. That side, that side, that side, that side, that side. So one thumb knot. Right? And then I'm going to tie another thumb knot around the back. Now I could show you that if you really want to, but you know, we all know what thumb knots are, so I don't feel necessary to show you the other side of it. But what we're doing is tying a thumb knot around there so that it's going through. Now basically, look, there's our thumb knot around there, and now we're back onto the top again, and I'm going to tie another thumb knot on the top, keep them together, you know, and another one behind. So, you know, and a lot of sort of people, you don't really bother with a thumb knot. You go, oh, well, everyone knows how to do a thumb knot, and next thing you know, you've got people that don't know how to do thumb knots and things. But you know, it's always worthwhile teaching a thumb knot, because it's used. It's used in quite a lot in sinnets, and it's used in this West Crow. Let's go tie another one. Right, so I'm just going to keep doing that for a sec until we get to the end. Alright, so I've just thumb knots all the way up, really, on both front and back. And then to finish this off, we are just going to tie the rope would stay put, and I don't get so many fingers in the way, but you all know how to tie this thing. I'm just going to finish it off with a reef knot. Again, reef knots, not very strong, but you know, it's not having to carry any weight here. All it's doing here is finishing off a load of thumb knots that are just stopping a piece of rope from falling apart. Right, so that's it. Once again, with this stuff, I can hopefully not burn myself. This is what happens when you give up smoking and stop having decent lights. up and do anything on the top of Penavan in the middle of... Right, there we go. And again, just run to flame underneath that just to seal it all up and go through. So so they both do the same job. We have common whipping and the West Country whipping. Same thing. West Country whipping is about the same, the right length for this particular diameter of rope. There you go. Two different types of whipping. Okay, so square lashing is when you want to tie two poles together, and the force is in this direction. So that's whatever you're trying to construct is coming down this way or going across. But if the force is going like this way, down that way, then you do diagonal lashing, which is elsewhere. For square lashing, you want to go that way and it just ties on that there. Right, so first you start with a clove hitch, and we know how to do that, so I'm not going to show you that again. And then what you look for is you want to start your lashing in the direction that's going to keep your lashing tight as you tie it. So we've got our clove hitch there, and I need to come under here, so that's going to be pulling our clove hitch tight at the start. So the idea is I come around and underneath there, and then I come over there. So I'm just going over and under, and then I'm going to go under here, and then that brings me back to my clove hitch, right? So I'm going to pull all of that nice and tight. And then I'm just going to follow that path again. So you can see, you actually keep those turns right next to each other and nice and neat. We're not just keeping them neat just for the sake of it being all pretty, because if you have these crossing like this, then that's giving a bit of looseness in the rope. So when any pressure comes down, any force comes down onto these things, these ropes might slip, and if you've got them overlapping like that, they'll slip across each other and your lashing will end up loose. So we're being neat, not just to be pretty for the video, we're being neat so that the lashing is actually nice and tight and mechanically sound. Okay, so you don't need to do that a huge number of times. 3 times is fine. As long as you're keeping everything tight and you're keeping everything neat, then you don't need to go round and round and round and round. And once you're here, so I've gone round a total of 3 times. 3 times, yep. What I need to do is to do what's called frapping turns. The frapping turns go around the middle of the lashing, and pull everything, all your turns and everything else nice and tight. So you need to be very, very tight if you're doing big pioneering, larger poles, bigger rope, anything like that. Anything that's going to have to be secure for people to climb on or whatever, then a good pair of gloves to protect your hands, to be able to get the force onto the lashing, onto the ropes, to be able to get things tight without taking the skin off your hands or whatever. Good idea. Right, so I'm going to come over the top here so that my frapping turns don't overlap. Like I said, overlaps are bad. I'm just going to go around the middle. That's you can see where it's all pulling that loops nice and tight in, and same on the other side. Going to come up and around, so complete circuit of the lashing inside. Right, we'll do that again. Put everything nice and tight, and that's going to go round. Same again, another 2 or 3 times. Don't need to do it so that it's killing everything. Now we've started with our clove hitch on the top, we're going to finish with a clove hitch on the bottom. So clove hitch again, as we all know, pull that across, and up through the middle of the cross. If you've got a friend with you, then use that friend to put its keep the tension on while you're finishing the thing off. But you can always just tighten it up and pull the tension back on once you've got your clove hitch there. And so there is our finishing clove hitch, and there is our finished square lashing. All nice and neat, all nice and strong, and yeah, there you go, square lashing. Okay, so another alternative to the square lashing, the Japanese square lashing. It's a bit quicker, but you know, it's however you want to do. So if you find the centre of your rope for this one, loop that around the bottom and move that up so that you've got the start of it there. And then what you're going to be doing is similar to a square lashing, where you're passing the rope under and over and over and under and so on, but you're going to do it with two bits of rope together, well, the same bit of rope, but you know, from the loop. So we're going to come under here, and then we're going to go over there. You see what I'm doing there? And then under here, and then over there. So we're laying down two strands at the same time. And if you ever have a look on bits of traditional Japanese woodwork, pioneering lashings and so on, you will see that distinct cross there, which is caused by, you know, one half of the loop actually coming across to be able to do our winding. So you can actually see that on some traditional Japanese features. Look out for that if you're ever looking at pictures of Japanese things or going to Japan. So we can do that a couple of times more. Yeah, same with all lashings, keep everything tight as you're going. Alright, so for frapping turns in this, it's a little bit different because you've got two ends. So what we're doing, we still need the frapping turns, and that's still keeping everything tight. What I'm going to do is to take one end in this direction, just back under and then up there, and the other end is going to carry on and come in this direction, right? So they're both going in opposite directions around our lashing. Pull it tight as we go, and then come around the back of them again. And pull it tight as we go. So that's what we're doing, just pulling these things into different directions as we go, loops. And then once they're finished, once it's all done, once it's all complete, and I'm happy with what I'm doing, you'll be happy to know that it's one of those lashings that doesn't have a clove hitch. So all we need to do to finish off is to finish all of these, just to make sure these things aren't slipping. A bit of a reef knot. Or if you want it even stronger, you could use another joining knot than a reef knot, but there you go. So remember, if you're out in Japan looking at traditional things, that little bit of a cross, obviously beam's larger than the canes I've got here, but you just look for that little cross thing. If you can see that, then you can tell it's been tied using a Japanese square lashing. So a bit easier, a bit faster than the square lashing. Advantages to both, but they're both sort of strong in this direction. That's the sort of point of them. When we're talking about the square lashing with forces in this way, where you actually want to tie up square chunks horizontally, the diagonal lashing is where you're looking at the forces coming in this direction here. So reinforcing triangles with trestles, or whatever you're doing with that way. So if you remember back from when we deal with hitches, if you don't, then you can go back and revise that. We're starting off a diagonal lashing with just a timber hitch. Now, the reason why we don't need anything stronger than a timber hitch, if you remember what we were talking about, timber hitches are not exactly the strongest knot in the world. It's strong in a particular direction, but not in general. Is the nature of the diagonal lashing means that timber hitch ends up being buried inside the lashing itself. So it doesn't need the timber hitch itself doesn't need to be tight or to actually do much other than be a convenience thing to start your lashing off in the direction you want. Okay, so we've got our lashing there. That's our timber hitch, sorry. And what we want to do is to make sure, remember that timber hitches are only strong in a particular direction, so we are going down here to start with in the direction that's going to keep our timber hitch tight. And we're just going to go around the centre of that diagonal, pulling tight like you have to do with all lashings, making sure it doesn't all fall apart on you as you go. So as you see, like I said about the timber hitch ends up being buried inside your windings as you go. Okay, so once you've done it a few times in that direction, then we switch over and we come up and do it a few times over the top of our cross, pulling all that nice and tight. So we've got all of that going on, and then exactly the same as we did with the square lashing, where we've got frapping turns to pull the whole thing tight. We do the same, so we come across and pulling down, our frapping turns coming in, around and around. So that gives us our, tightens everything up, gives us our strength, and then once again the famous ubiquitous clove hitch to complete everything up. Isn't away again, but you know how to tie one of those things by now. Okay, so there we have it. One diagonal lashing, which, like I said, the strength is in this direction here. So shear lashing, the next one we're going to do is for tying two poles together, so that you've got, you know, extensions to poles and sort of like that. But basically tying two poles side by side. So the way we do this is, as with most of the lashings that we talk about in all of this, is we start with a clove hitch, and hopefully you're beginning to see why we do so much with clove hitches. We place so much emphasis on learning clove hitch. Right, so same again, we can be winding so that our clove hitch stays nice and tight. Alright, we're going to be pulling in the direction that it's going to go. So the pole that way and winding this way is no good, because we're going against the tightness. No, we're not. Having it that way and going this way is what we're after. Alright, so this is all it is. It just involves us wrapping the rope around. I probably haven't got enough rope to do a massive one, so let's make it a little bit shorter one. So again, pulling nice and tight all the time, pulling those ropes in nice and tight, pulling everything in nice and tight as we go. Now obviously, the more length that you've got to this, the more support that is going to afford. So if you're wanting to put a lot of weight on things, then do a longer shear lashing with, you know, more pole on the overlap. But once you've got to a point where you're happy with what you're doing and you're happy with the length of that, then same as all the lashings we're dealing with, frapping turns. Frapping turns in this case go in the middle of your poles. It can be a little bit difficult to get through, but once you're there, you're there. So it goes around and up, everything nice and straight, everything nice and tight. First one might be awkward, but because that first channel is actually created a little bit of a gap now because I've got a bit between the two now. The rest of them should be actually easy to pass through. There we go. So pulls all of those loops that you've done in your lashing nice and tight. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Ooh. Same with all the other whippings, frapping turns that we've done. Just 2 or 3 times to pull the coils back in nice and tightly, and then finish off with once more. Guess what? Yeah, this is going to be so easy to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to do my clove hitch, so I'm going to press it through and then it will tighten up as we come through. Okay, so another clove hitch underneath, so we pull that nice and tight, get that rope inside the poles if I can. There we go. And then I can rotate that round and actually get all that sorted out and tight. There we go. One shear lashing. So what we want to do is to make a tripod. So we want to lash these 3 poles together to actually be able to come out with a tripod. So tripod lashing. It's pretty much just a weaving type affair, but once again we are starting with, surprise surprise, a clove hitch. So yeah. By the way, I know there are advocates of using the bunny ears method of tying clove hitches, but most of the time when we're using clove hitches, we're at the end of lashings or we're in poles and all this kind of stuff, and I don't think the bunny ears one, it allows people to have the achievement of tying a knot, but in terms of practicality and stuff, I don't think it really serves any purpose. So my advice is to teach people how to tie a clove hitch properly from the first, instead of having to later unlearn all the bunny ears cheating method, because what you get is, for square lashings for example, or end of any lashings, where they're halfway down a pole and they can't actually make loops that bunny ears to go over the top, and then what do? Okay, so the tripod lashing is simply, we've come under there, we're going to go over there, there's our third part of our tripod, we're going to go under there, and then we're going to do exactly the same thing on the way back. So we're going to go over, we're going to come under, we're going to go over. So over, under, over, under, over, under. We're going to go over. So we've gone under, over, around, under, over, under, and around, over, under, over, and around, over, under, and around, over, under, over. Yeah, again, pushing everything tight. I'm trying to do this so that you can actually see what's going on with the thing, but when you're actually tying this for real, just try and keep it as tight as you can as you're going through. You know, canes are one thing, nice and slippy, you know, but if you try and tie everything as loose as that and then push it down afterwards, and you've got hulking great branches with bark on you, you're in trouble. Right, so over, under, over. Okay, so we're going to add frapping turns to these now. So I'm going to come around and through once, twice, and then I'm going to go across to the next pole and go once, twice, and then aesthetically, if you wanted to actually, you know, you could end there, start your frapping turns on that side and end with your final clove hitch on this pole so they balance out, or whichever way. It's not expensive bit of a problem. However, works for you. So once again, under. Come on, you fiddly. Finish off with the clove-hitch again, and then it's just a case of arranging the cord so that you have your tripod. And there are lots of ways of making tripods. That's a kind of tripod lashing, but you could also tie a diagonal or square lashing or whatever, and then tie a third upright to that or whatever. This is just a tripod lashing. You might also want to put square lashings around the bottom for exactly that reason. This just sort of holds the tops of the things over, but there's no real structural integrity to it. So you might want to put crossbars around the bottom, of these, so you've got, effectively A-frames on the other side, and that will stop the legs from going all over the place. But in essence, that's your tripod.